Good morning and welcome back. This is World Talks coming to you live from Warsaw. I'm Jastrzębska. This week, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko joined Vladimir Putin in large-scale nuclear military drills spanning from Eastern Europe to the Pacific. At the same time, Washington is reportedly pushing Poland, Lithuania and Ukraine to ease sanctions on Belarusian potash exports, a key source of revenue for Minsk. So what does this tell us about Belarus's shifting role? To discuss, I have Franak Viacorka, chief advisor to Belarusian opposition leader Svetlana Tikhanovskaya. Good morning, sir. Delighted to have you with us.
Happy to be with you.
So let's start with this latest political development. U.S. officials have sent out a letter proposing that Lithuania, Poland and Ukraine lift sanctions on Belarusian potash to allow the transit of the agricultural product through their territories. An undated, unsigned, one-page document was obtained by Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. So what response is the U.S. expecting in this case?
First of all, let me correct you. In the beginning, you called Lukashenko the president of Belarus, but he lost elections in 2020, and the international community does not recognize him as president. He is a self-proclaimed dictator who is serving Putin, and he is not legitimate representative of Belarus. Speaking about American engagement, American track is humanitarian. Trump's administration is trying to release political prisoners. They already released more than 500, and they expect much more. In exchange, they soften some sanctions. This letter, which you refer, it's not official letter. It doesn't demand the lifting of sanctions from Poland, Lithuania, or Ukraine. It's just the proposal to have a conversation about the possible transit of potash fertilizers. But I don't think Poland, Lithuania, or Ukraine are ready to soften any sanctions towards Lukashenko. In general, we think it's not a good time to soften pressure on the regime while Lukashenko conducts nuclear military drills, escalates the war, escalates repression. If the EU will be softening sanctions on Lukashenko, it will help only Russia. So we ask our partners, our neighbors, not to soften anything, instead increase pressure on Lukashenko.
As you've mentioned that despite close ties with Russia, Lukashenko has recently reopened dialogue with Washington. So he has released scores of political prisoners, including recently a prominent Polish-Belarusian journalist, Andrzej Poczobut. What are Lukashenko's motivations behind this? Are they primarily economic?
Andrzej Poczobut, our Polish-Belarusian hero, was released as a part of exchange. It was not just a goodwill of Lukashenko and humanitarian gesture. No, he exchanged for Russian agents detained in European prisons. And it was purely transactional deal. We are happy that Andrzej is free. Andrzej can speak. Andrzej can continue his fight. But it was a very pragmatic and cynical Lukashenko's approach towards political prisoners. He's trading them. He wants Western countries to soften sanctions in exchange for people's lives. He sees political prisoners as hostages. But at the same time, while some people are being released on American track, twice more are being detained. And we can see that hundreds of people are being released, but the number of political prisoners in last months remains the same, because only in last week, more than 40 new political prisoners have appeared.
We're going to get to the political prisoners in a moment, but if we could turn to the nuclear exercises now. How significant is Belarus's direct involvement? Could these joint nuclear exercises signal preparations for a new Russian offensive against Ukraine from Belarusian territory, perhaps?
Russia is looking at Belarus as the military launch pad. In 2022, from Belarus, the first attacks on Kiev have started. Without Belarus, for Russia, it's impossible to take over Ukraine. It's impossible to conduct operation against NATO, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia. Belarus is key because of its geopolitical situation, because of its railways, because of the infrastructure, primarily built in Soviet times. Belarus is key for Russia. And now Russia is trying to fix its control over Belarus. So in case of possible ceasefire or peace agreement, Belarus will remain under Russian control. And we must not allow this to happen. If we want peace and security for Ukraine, for Poland, for entire Europe, Belarus must be taken away from Russia, must be dragged from Putin's claws and turned to Europe, become free and democratic state. That will be the only guarantee of peace in the region. Russia is conducting nuclear drills also to blackmail Western countries primarily with Oreshnik strategic missiles, with nuclear weapons. So far, we don't see imminent threat of use of nuclear weapons. But as the part of PSYOPs, psychological information operations, it's already working. Putin is trying also to distract attention from Ukraine, distract resources from Ukraine. And in some societies, in some Western countries, we see this blackmail is working.
So just to clarify, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte warned that any use of nuclear weapons would trigger a devastating response. And some analysts describe these exercises as a saber rattling. And so I understand that you also see it this way.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's provocation, that's blackmail. Putin is testing the red lines, how far he can go without a proper response. You know, in Putin's mind, the West is weak. The West is not able to respond. The West will not protect each other. They do believe that NATO allies will not stand with each other in case of escalation. And they are just like testing right now. They're looking for weak spots of the Western countries. That's why the best response will be to show unity, to show firmness, to impose new sanctions, new pressure on Lukashenko and Putin together, and to help Ukraine, because the main front line is on the Russian-Ukrainian front at this very moment.
And in your view, how much pressure is Vladimir Putin placing on Belarus to play a more active role in the Ukraine war?
Good question. Good question. I think Putin sees Lukashenko as his pawn, his puppet, very dependent. Putin understands that Lukashenko will not go away because only thanks to Putin, Lukashenko survived. Lukashenko lost elections, revolution has started, Putin helped Lukashenko to stay in power, and now Lukashenko pays his debt back to Putin. He pays with Belarusian sovereignty, independence, allowing Russian troops to use Belarusian territory. And I don't think Putin even asks Lukashenko if drones are flying over Belarus, if military drills taking place. Lukashenko just gets instruction from Putin. So it's naive to think that these two guys, they can be somehow separated. You know, they have the same ideology, the same hatred towards West, towards Poland, towards Ukraine, and they will be sticking with each other.
And could sanctions relief become a bargaining tool for Belarus as the conflict in Ukraine drags on?
We believe that sanctions, especially European sanctions, Polish, EU, Brussels, Ukrainian sanctions, they must stay in place until systemic change in Belarus. What does it mean? No political prisoners, no repression. Belarus is not taking part in the war, and new free and fair elections when there will be real, legitimate representatives elected through elections, because Lukashenko is self-proclaimed dictator. So only then we can speak about softening European sanctions. American sanctions, in case of Belarus, much weaker. They're not so key as European ones. And we believe that at some point they can be traded for lives of people, for political prisoners. But at the same time, European sanctions must stay in place. So we ask Europe to keep firm position, not to soften pressure. It will create incentive for Lukashenko to free people and to change the policy.
So May 21st marked Political Prisoners' Day in Belarus, and a congress was held in Vilnius. You've already hinted at this, but perhaps could you paint us a picture of how does the situation look like for political prisoners in Belarus at the moment?
It's horrible. It's horrible. It's like in Stalinist time. I know that, new generation don't understand what it means, but, society lives in fear. Every day people can come with a search of your apartment. They arrest people randomly. They can check your phone. If they find subscription on independent media, you can be arrested immediately. All organizations are liquidated or declared terrorists and extremists. So even reading the news became the threat. And every single day people are being detained. Last week, as I said, more than 40 people have been detained. Searches took place all over Belarus. And we have now about 900 political prisoners, but also hundreds of those names we don't know about. Many people are being detained for supporting Ukraine, for solidarity with Ukraine, and they receive especially big draconian sentences, 15, 20 years in prison, and people cannot survive prison. The conditions are very bad, no food, it's very cold in the cells sometimes. Those who just released by Americans in the last months, they're telling horrible stories about the prison. That's why releasing people, it's our priority, of course.
And one of the main themes of this Congress in Vilnius was the issue of solidarity. So how important is solidarity for political prisoners?
Solidarity is key. Solidarity is key when you fight dictatorship. No dictatorship can be fought without allies. Our biggest allies are our neighbors, Poland, Lithuania, Ukraine, all the European Union. All these years they fight for our prisoners, they put pressure, and they force Lukashenko to release political prisoners. Solidarity between Belarusians, many families help repressed families. Many families in exile, they receive those who had to flee because of repression. And during the Congress, we discussed how to help prisoners. We need attention. We need resources for rehabilitation of those released. We need pressure if we want all others who are behind bars to get free as soon as possible. And I'm very happy that so many diplomats, dozens of countries have joined the Congress, and so many former political prisoners have had possibility to speak about their own stories behind bars. I'm really happy to see such solidarity among Belarusians. It reminded me solidarity in Poland in the 80s. You know, you see history repeats itself, and I hope we will also get free, same as Poland many years ago.
But there's clearly a difficult balance, between keeping political prisoners in the public eye and avoiding further punishment from Belarusian or prison authorities, right? So how do journalists and activists decide when publicity helps and when it could actually put prisoners at a greater risk?
It's a very good question. And that was one of the main discussions during the conference. Should we be silent about political prisoners and not to put them in harsh conditions? Because when let's say during the TVP World interview, I mentioned the name, immediately this person in prison, in Minsk, in Gomel, in Orsha, they will go to the solitary confinement. It's always happening like that. But people who are being released, and at the Congress, they spoke about their stories. They say, yes, I was in solitary confinement, but at least I felt that no one forgot about me, that someone supported me, that I am not abandoned. So it gave them strength to survive. So we think, and the result of Congress is, we must speak about the people, about those who are still behind bars every single day, to give them energy to survive this harsh imprisonment.
Well, Belarus continues to rank among the world's most dangerous countries for journalists. So how has the crackdown on independent media changed the atmosphere both inside the country and among journalists in exile? And how are you working to overcome that?
Independent media are key. And Lukashenko first started repression with repressing journalists, liquidating independent media, arresting independent bloggers. And at some point, there were more than 100 journalists and bloggers behind bars. Now it's about 20 journalists and 20 bloggers who remain behind bars, and we fight for their release, of course. We see the media as the bridge, as the glue for the society. The dictator always trying to split the society, atomize, fragment, so people cannot unite to resist. And media help people to exchange information, to self-organize. And now many media organizations, they restored their work from Poland and from Lithuania. They have millions of viewers, and 70-80% of their audience are from inside the country. People still read them, watch them. And social networks like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram became now the main platform for spreading free word, true information, honest news, and to deliver this information to people inside the country. And it works well. People know, for example, who is aggressor in the war against Ukraine, who is enemy, and they understand why Ukraine defends itself.
Franak Viacorka, Chief Advisor to Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, thank you so very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching World Talks. Please stay tuned for more here on TVP World.